everyone. I just got back from the Modern Open here in Syracuse, New York, so it's pretty convenient for me. A nice 5-minute, 6-minute drive home. So this is what I played in the Open. There was a slight difference. I didn't actually have 3 copies of Polluted Delta. I had 1 Misty and 1 Flooded Strand. But otherwise, this is the deck. I ended up going 11-4, finishing in 21st place. Honestly, I wouldn't change a card in the deck. I thought it ran very well. I lost to a couple good matchups, being Hollow One and Dredge. And then I lost to a bad matchup in Burn and Grixis Control. The Grixis Control matchup I've played before. It's pretty coin flippy. I just didn't happen to get there. So I'd like to go over some of my thought processes and explain some of my card choices. So, typical 17 lands. I play fetch lands. I know a lot of the modern community Storm players get up in arms when they see fetch lands, but honestly, it's just better. People like to pretend that they take less damage off of playing 4 shocks and pain lands. They're wrong. The best players in the world, John Finkel, Huey Jensen, they play fetch lands. I think it's something that Star City grinders get too fixated on, and it doesn't really matter all that much. Like, the percentage points are like marginal. One huge benefit of fetch lands, though, is you're much better against Blood Moon decks, and I faced 2 of them in the Open, and both times the players didn't pour out their Blood Moons because they thought they could lock me out. So having access to Basic Island was incredible. If anything, I've actually considered playing a 5th Basic over one of the fetch lands. I don't know if it's wrong or not, but like another Basic Island, it would be kind of nice. So let's move on to some of the deck choices. So 12 cantrips with 4 opt. Basically, you want to be able to filter through and find what you want in the deck, and you want to be as linear as possible in Game 1 with my current strategy. So I was reading the Finkel article that I didn't think was that great, to be honest, but he pointed something out that was really subtle that I thought had a lot of meaning to it, and it was that you don't really want to be doing all these silly things like unsub, remand, noxious revival. Like, you just want to cast a bear on turn 2 and kill him on turn 3. And honestly, that was my plan for this weekend. So, talking to a couple other Storm experts, one of them being Johnny Hot Sauce himself, Andrew Shrout, and he mentioned 8 bears. So at first I was a little taken aback, and I was like, I don't think I'm going to play 8. 8's a lot. Maybe I'll do 7 in a noxious revival. But I found every game I played a bear on turn 2, I was winning a much higher percentage. And I think diluting your deck with all these like circumstantial one-ups doesn't benefit you in the long run. So because of that, I'm running 8 bears, 0 main deck remand. I think remand sucks. Honestly, like, it's only good in a handful of matchups, even if that many. And I played 4 or 5 leagues, and I noticed that I only didn't side it out in 1 matchup. So I was thinking to myself, like, why am I playing this card if I'm only, keeping it in 1 matchup? Like, I was literally boarding it out all the time, and I decided that it wasn't worth it anymore. So I moved it to the sideboard because you do want it against decks like the Storm Mirror, KCI, Blue-White Control. You just don't want it main deck, and I think that you can get by without it Game 1. I played a Storm Mirror. I lost Game 1. I won Games 2 and 3 because I had 3 remand, 2 bolts. I never faced KCI in the event, though, but I do think in that matchup, you're just better off racing, and having a turn 2 bear makes that even a much higher percentage. So, big fan of 8 bears, 0 remand. I loved it. Like, your deck is just so much more fluid. You don't have dead draws against humans. I went 3-0 against humans on the weekend. Having 8 bears was amazing. Multiple times I just went turn 2 bear, turn 3 kill you, even threw a hate bear twice. Yeah, it was great. So one of the downsides of not playing unsub and repeal is that you have to play a worse bounce spell. And I don't want to say worse because, like, it's slightly worse. Like, it's not a huge deal. I think unsub actually sucks. But Perilous Voyage there's a catch-all that, like, gets everything. So we originally started playing repeal because of the ley line of Sanctity main deck out of Boggles. And it was kind of annoying getting up to 5 mana to bounce a main deck away line. Perilous Voyage bounces it for 2, and originally we were playing Repeal because it was flexible enough to deal with Chalice of the Void on 2 as well, but no one plays Chalice anymore. So playing a card like Perilous Voyage that humans won't likely name with Meddling Mage has a lot more value to it, because people get out Image and then or Meddling Mage, and they copy it with images, and they go like Grape Shot, unsub, Repeal, and then you're locked out of the game. So with my list, that doesn't happen. So they go Grape Shot, and then they name unsub and Repeal, and then you have Perilous Voyage, then main deck Empty the Warrens as backup. So just playing cards that your opponent doesn't expect will get you a lot farther in a lot of matchups. So I went 3-0, as I said, against humans. The main deck Empty won me 2 game 1 against humans. I had a lot of very quick combos, and I had a few where I went Ritual on turn 2, Manamorphose, cast a Bear, Ritual Empty for 10 or 12, and it just ended up being great. So still 3 copies of Grape Shot. I tried 2 and I didn't end up liking it. I feel like 3 is a must. But that's the main deck. In the sideboard you'll see the 3 copies of Remand that I mentioned. I think Finkel's list was wrong in the fact that Pieces of the Puzzle wasn't in the board and he's playing a bunch of crazy 1-ups to beat humans. You need pieces in order to beat Leyline of Sanctity and Leyline of the Void. Like, there's a lot of matchups where I just straight up board out Gifts and Given for pieces, or I'll board out 2 gifts and then I'll still board in the 4 pieces. I think it's just necessary if you want to beat Leylines. And they're great. Even in the control matchups, I board in 4 and then I just outgrind them. I only faced 2 control decks on the weekend, being the Grixis deck. It was a close matchup. I was really disappointed because I punched it on camera, but it is what it is. They're great there. And then I crushed blue-white. So Pieces is great. 2 bolts, 2 Abrade. Typically you'll see lists with 3 bolts. I decided to cut my 3rd bolt for an Echoing Truth because I wanted some extra value against fighting against, what's it called? Dampening Sphere. And Echoing Truth was great all weekend. I never found myself really needing a 3rd Lightning Bolt. I'm pretty happy with 2 Abrade, 2 Bolt split with Echoing Truth and Wipe Away. So there's a lot of matchups where I don't think Bolt is spectacular, and I board in Wipe Away, Echoing Truth, and then the 2 Abrades, hoping to hit creatures and or the Sphere. 2 more Empty the Warrens. I boarded them in a bunch this weekend. I think they're incredibly undervalued. One thing I do a lot with my list that I notice that other Storm players don't, I straight up board out all 8 creatures in a lot of matchups, and I just become the slow, grindy deck. I'll board in the 4 pieces, the Abrades, the Empties, the Bolts at bounce spells, sometimes Remand, and I just take out like the 8 creatures, 2 gifts, sometimes Opt, sometimes the Perilous Voyage, maybe a Grape Shot, and I just become like this deck that's going to inevitably win, because I have better cards and my cards are a lot more powerful over time. And I try to not extend too much with the Empty the Warrens. Like, I'll play like a Ritual and then Manamorphose Empty for 6, keep it in check, because I really only want them to deal like 6 to 10 damage, and if they win me the game, great, and if not, I've made them clear a Sweeper and I can empty again in a few turns, or it gets them low enough for Grape Shot or a Bolt or something like that. So this is the deck list. I loved it. I would play it again if there was another Modern event coming up. Highly recommend it. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them in the comments. I'm going to go do other stuff now, but take care, and thank you for watching.